In 2053, after the last war, the crime rate skyrocketed by over 800%, putting immense pressure on the prison system. To solve this problem, the government came up with the Iron Box Rehabilitation Program, a method that might have previously been considered inhumane. This program forced prisoners to choose one of two options: voluntarily accept immediate death or live out their sentence inside a box. Food and water would be provided to them, but entirely dependent on the mercy of the law-abiding citizens they had betrayed. Anyone attempting to escape would be immediately eliminated. Inside one of these boxes, a French woman struggled to survive with countless wounds. She was sentenced to 4 years and still had over 2 years to endure. Her jug was empty of water, and when she checked the slot, instead of food, she found a razor blade. After some hesitation, she finally decided to give up and use the razor blade to end her life. On a rocky island in Australia, countless such boxes lay scattered near the shoreline. One day, 2 children were playing and threw a rubber ball into one of the boxes, waking the woman inside. I, prisoner number 13, awoke with a start and found my limbs tightly bound. I gnawed at the rope with my teeth until I freed myself. My sentence was 7 years, and today was the first day. Suddenly, a light on the wall beeped and a small slot opened. I looked out and saw the 2 children walking away. Just a second later, the light beeped again, and the slot slammed shut. As I screamed and pleaded for freedom, a screen on the box turned on, and a video explained the rules. It ended by saying that I was in the place I had chosen for myself. I completely broke down, slamming my hands against the wall and swearing my innocence. I cried and screamed until I was exhausted and passed out. A while later, the slot opened again. I quickly put my jug out for food, but there was nothing. After that, I began to scrutinize every centimeter of the box, hoping to find an exit. However, whenever I touched the spot for too long, I received a slight electric shock. This didn't stop me. I continued searching until there was nothing left to do. Many hours passed, and I began to struggle with being alone with my own mind, and resorted to scratching my fingernails against the box walls as my only form of entertainment. Meanwhile, in another box, another prisoner was waking up. Her sentence was 2 years, and she still had over 500 days left. Sometimes, she would hear a voice asking if she was still alive. One evening, she tried fiddling with the light panel, and her actions were immediately detected by the box's camera. An alarm sounded, and a voice announced that an execution was about to take place, before metal bars on the ceiling began to descend. The female prisoner screamed in panic and called for help through the open slot, but it was useless. She lay sprawled on the floor and watched in horror as the metal bars approached, only for them to stop right above her face. The screen and countdown voice began to glitch, and the woman smiled, thinking it was over. Unfortunately, the glitch passed, and the metal bars continued to descend, crushing her to death. The next morning, I continued to scrutinize every nook and cranny of the box, but still found nothing useful. As it began to rain, I placed my jug near the open slot to catch water, and finally, I got a sip. A while later, I woke from a short nap when I heard a voice. A young girl was right at the slot, asking about my sentence. And when she heard I was sentenced to 7 years, she concluded that I must be a political prisoner. She filled my jug with water and gave me a small bag of food pellets, which I devoured immediately. Afterwards, she reminded me that citizens would decide the future of each prisoner and ignored me when I said I was innocent. Time continued to pass, and I felt my sanity slowly deteriorating. I couldn't bear this isolation any longer, so I grabbed the rope and began to end my life. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe, but as I was about to die, my hands let go of the rope. Then, I completely broke down, realizing that I couldn't even control my own death. Several months later, I was still alive and stuck in the box. I was given seeds in a piece of newspaper, so I dropped them into the bowl and held the newspaper near the slot for some light. Unfortunately, the articles were written in a language I couldn't read. I burst into tears, feeling like I was being tortured. Sometime later, I reached through the slot and fumbled around until I found the rubber ball. Now I had something to pass the time. Day after day passed with boring routines. I slept, played with the ball, and when the panel opened the slot, I looked out at the scenery to catch some sunlight. Before long, wounds appeared on my body and grew worse. Meanwhile, in another box, a man was serving his 5-year sentence. He had been there for 1,000 days, so now he was nothing more than an empty shell, repeatedly saying, "I am in the place I chose." One afternoon, a drone lifted my box and dropped it into a forest, where dozens of prisoners were held. The teen girl returned and asked what I was doing. I replied that I was rehabilitating. Then she shared that she was reading Shakespeare, an Arthur Long Band. I didn't know the name, but clarified that I could read. It's just that I wasn't allowed to do that in this box. After pointing out that there could be no rehabilitation without books, the teen girl took my hand and quoted a line from Romeo and Juliet. I found it beautiful. and hoped to read it someday. So the teen girl tried to lend me the book. However, I refused, as I didn't want to get into trouble. The teen girl gave me some food and promised to return to read to me. After the teen girl left, I kept thinking about her touch and lips, so much so that I pleasured myself while the camera recorded everything. A year into my incarceration, I was eating some seeds from a pouch and found a small book hidden inside. I lay down, turning my back to the camera before opening it, and was delighted to recognize it as Romeo and Juliet. Reading the poetic excerpts gave me a glimmer of hope. The next time I was given clean water, I bathed my body and carefully cleaned my wounds to prevent infection. Touching the wounds was very painful, but I tried to endure it. Then I threw the dirty water out. The camera recorded this and classified it as water wastage, so my box was moved back to the shoreline. Finally, the teen girl visited again and wondered what I had done to be moved. Instead of answering, I asked her how she decided who to feed. She explained that she just walked around and talked to as many prisoners as possible. Today, it seemed like a storm was coming, so she would have to leave early. I also asked her age and learned that the teen girl was only 16, which made me admit that she reminded me of my deceased sister. Many weeks continued to pass, and I remained sane thanks only to the little book. I hid it in a crack in the box and carefully took it out whenever I wanted to read a quote, always making sure to turn my back to the camera. Sometimes I craved reading so much that I had to rely on moonlight, even though it wasn't as bright as the sun. One day, the drone moved the box again, and I watched it fly over the ocean. When it landed, a person appeared at the slot eating an apple just to taunt me. I cried, begging for at least a bite and pleading for mercy, but the man named Apple just said he would show no mercy to any animal in these boxes. If it were up to him, every prisoner would be executed without a chance for rehabilitation. After a brief argument, Apple said he was willing to make a trade. I would get an apple if I let him have his way with me. I was so desperate from hunger that I agreed, so I bent down, presenting my backside to the slot. As Apple was abusing me, the patrol drone caught him in the act and opened fire. The man was killed instantly, and a stray bullet entered the box, wounding my leg. Despite the extreme pain, I reached out and snatched the apple, then began to devour it. Unfortunately, I discovered the apple was full of maggots and ended up vomiting profusely. That night, I was woken by an alarm. A voice explained that trading for food was against the rules, and this was therefore punishment. I would have to endure 7 days without sleep. This was the only warning I would receive. If I broke the rules again, I would be killed. A blinding light came on inside the box, and the alarm rang incessantly. So for the next 7 days, I couldn't sleep. I tried to cover my eyes and ears with my shirt, but it was useless. I could only scream in desperation as I felt my mind spiraling into madness. Sometimes the alarm would stop, and I would try to sleep, but as soon as I closed my eyes, the alarm would start again. During that week of sleeplessness, I completed 2 years in the box. Sometime later, I noticed people happily living their lives outside the box. The voice suddenly announced that I had suffered an unjust sentence, and so the citizens had agreed to grant me freedom. A beautiful woman's face appeared at the slot and somehow got inside. I found her familiar, but didn't recognize her. The woman sat on a chaise lounge while fiddling with a cup of tea, explaining that it was all an illusion, and I would not be released. In fact, this beautiful woman was my own form before my arrest. The woman explained the mental journeys the human brain could experience, and laughed hysterically while I cried in agony. When the voice in the box finally announced that the punishment was over, I could finally sleep and the illusion vanished, but it left me with a psychological scar. A few nights later, I saw fireworks in the sky. The voice in the box explained that it was the new year, and to celebrate, the citizens had decided to pardon all prisoners in the boxes, except those convicted as political prisoners. This meant I was not to be released. That night, I discovered that my teeth were starting to fall out. One morning, an old woman appeared outside my box and tapped on the wall with a rusty razor blade before speaking. She explained that she had been in a box for 15 years and the experience had shaped her into the person she was today. The old woman offered me the razor blade before saying that she hated the person she had become. I stared at the razor blade on my skin, but didn't dare use it. Finally, the Shakespeare fan visited again, and it took me a few seconds to realize she was real. After filling my jug with water, the teen girl touched my hand and quoted from the book, and this time I could read the rest of the sentence. Several months later, my belly had grown abnormally large. It turned out I was pregnant after my encounter with Apple. The next time the teen girl came, she told me that her people wanted to save me and let me live out my sentence in their care. Her words triggered an alarm, and the slot slammed shut as she ran off. I could only scream in anguish at losing my chance. Several weeks later, a new man appeared at the slot. He noticed I was pregnant and that I still had 4 years left. He wondered if I recognized mercy and pointed to a burning bug. He thought a quick death was all I should ask for, but I refused his offer. Then I noticed a bit of water dripping from the ceiling and reached up to unscrew a loose screw. I used it to file my nails before dropping it. After that, I scratched at the hole the screw had made, hoping to enlarge it. Several months later, I started to feel contractions. I knelt down and painfully strained until the baby was born. I held the child tight while biting off the umbilical cord with my teeth. Just then, an alarm rang out, and a voice from the box announced that I had violated another rule by bringing a second person into the box. Therefore, destruction would be carried out. Suddenly, gas filled the box and made me fall asleep. When I woke up, I discovered my child had been taken away. I screamed in breakdown and pleaded for my child back. After 4 years of captivity, both the great storm and the fierce ocean waves continuously crashed against the box. Because of the holes I had made, water continuously poured in and damaged the light control panel. When I reached out to see if I could find anything useful, the system malfunctioned due to the water and slammed the slot door shut on my arm. Screaming in pain, I continued to pull my arm out but couldn't, only hurting it more severely. Soon the system malfunctioned again and the slot door opened, finally freeing me with a broken arm. Sometime later, I saw a beetle and stomped on it with my bare foot. After that, I grabbed it and ate it, almost vomiting. Water was still pouring in, so I collected some in a bottle, but soon after the box was submerged. Even with water all around, I still tried to read the book. Finally, the water level was so high that I could barely stand. The system detected an illegal intervention and announced that destruction would be carried out. As I struggled to stay afloat, a drone appeared to lift the box. However, while flying away, the drone was struck by lightning and fell to the ground. The box also fell and was soon carried away by the waves. In the morning, 3 young people were playing by the seashore. They noticed the box washed ashore, followed by myself, but they ignored me and went home. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.